Marcus, why do you always make too much coffee?
Because one day I keep hoping someone else will help me drink it.
Then perhaps your calculations were correct.
The desert had a way of keeping secrets. Marcus Hale had learned that in his 12 years of living on the edge of the Kindara Flats, where the Red Rock Canyons swallowed sound and the twin suns baked the earth into something resembling the surface of a forgotten world, he was not a man of adventure. He was a man of routine, morning coffee, equipment checks, the slow repair work that kept his small outpost running. That was enough for him. But the night he found the girl changed all of that. He had been returning from Supply Run, his cargo hauler rattling across the cracked flats under a moonless sky, when he saw the lights. Not stars, lights that moved wrong, that dropped low and scattered in ways no honest vessel should. He killed his own headlamps and pulled behind a rock formation, watching through his dusty viewport as a squat, dark freighter settled onto the ground half a kilometer ahead. Men climbed out, rough men, the kind Marcus recognized by the way they moved, quick, purposeful, without any of the hesitation that honest work puts into a person. They dragged a cargo container from the hold and cracked it open, checking their inventory. He counted 6 figures in total, and when a beam of light swept across the container's open mouth, he saw inside it things that were not cargo at all. They were people, small, pale blue, with wide dark eyes that caught the light like still water. Aliens, the Velhari, he realized, a people he had only read about in old trade reports. They were known for their gentleness. They were known for not fighting back. Marcus sat in his cab for a long moment. The smart thing was to drive away. He was one man with a short-range plasma cutter and no taste for violence. But there was a child among them, tiny, younger than the rest, pressing herself against the far wall of the container with her knees pulled up to her chest. And when the trader reached in and grabbed her by the wrist, something in Marcus's chest locked up tight and would not let him move the hauler in the direction of retreat. He went in loud and stupid, which was, as it turned out, the only way it could have worked. He drove the hauler straight into the side of the freighter at full throttle, jumped out before it stopped rocking, and discharged the plasma cutter into the nearest power coupling, plunging the scene into sudden darkness. In the chaos and shouting that followed, he grabbed the child by the hand and ran. They did not stop running until the canyon walls rose up around them and the distant sounds of the traders faded into the dry wind. He brought her to the outpost. She did not speak, not in any language he recognized, but she followed him without fear, watching everything with those enormous eyes. He gave her water and a blanket and the corner cot he rarely used. She curled into it like something returning to a safe place it had not known it was missing. In the morning, she was still there. He made breakfast. She watched him cook with an expression of careful attention, as though she was memorizing the shape of ordinary life. He pointed to himself and said his name. She said something soft and multisyllabic in return, and he tried his best to repeat it. She almost smiled. For 3 days it went like that. He learned that she responded to the name Lee, or something close to it. She learned that he took his coffee black and that he talked to his equipment when it gave him trouble, addressing the compressor unit by name the way someone might speak to a stubborn old dog. She began, tentatively, to help, handing him tools before he reached for them, learning which wrench matched which bolt with the same focused intelligence she brought to everything. He did not ask questions she could not answer. He did not push. He simply made room, and she filled it quietly. On the 4th morning, Marcus stepped outside before dawn to check the atmospheric sensors and found that he was not alone. They had come in the night, silent as the desert itself. A delegation of Velhari, tall, draped in layered garments of teal and copper, their elongated heads carrying an air of absolute stillness. A starship sat on the flat ground beyond his outpost, sleek and pale, its running lights glowing a deep and steady blue. 3 of them waited near his door. The one in the center, older and more decorated than the others, held both hands open at his sides, a gesture Marcus somehow understood, without being told, to mean that he came without threat. Marcus stood in the doorway. He said nothing. The elder Valhari spoke. His voice carried a layered quality, like 2 tones woven together, and the translation device at his collar rendered his words into flat but understandable speech a moment later. "You protected one of ours," the elder said. "We do not take such things lightly." Lee pushed past Marcus's legs and went to the elder, who placed both hands gently on her shoulders and looked at her for a long time before looking back up. "She is my granddaughter," he said. "We have been searching for 17 days. Marcus let out a slow breath. "Is she all right?" "She is well. Because of you." The elder tilted his head, studying Marcus with an attention that felt less like scrutiny and more like genuine curiosity. "You risked yourself for a child who was not yours. Who did not know? Who could not even speak your language?" "What?" Marcus thought about it. He leaned against the doorframe and looked out at the pale sky beginning to lighten at its edges. "Because she was scared," he said finally, "and because I could." The elder regarded him for a long moment. Then he stepped forward and pressed his palm, very gently, to Marcus's chest, above the heart. "Then we will remember you," he said, "not as a story we tell, as a name we carry." They stayed through the morning. The other Velhari moved around the outpost with careful, respectful steps, leaving behind things Marcus did not find until later. A small device near his water reclamation unit that would, he eventually discovered, triple its efficiency. A bundled cloth near the door containing seeds for plants that could grow in desert soil. Gifts offered without ceremony, without expectation of acknowledgement. Before they left, Lee came back to him. She stood in front of him for a moment, her dark eyes serious and certain. Then she pressed her small forehead briefly against the back of his hand, a gesture he somehow knew carried great weight, and turned and walked to the ship without looking back. He watched it rise into the sky and become a point of light, and then nothing. The desert settled back into its usual silence. Marcus stood in the door of his outpost for a while, coffee in hand, watching the place where the ship had been. Then he went back inside, sat down at his table, and picked up the same repair manual he had been reading for 3 days without really reading it. He sat there for a moment. Then he put the manual down. He was not, he decided, quite the same man he had been a week ago. The desert kept secrets, yes, but sometimes it also gave things back.